Happy Pride, everyone. Hi. Welcome in. There have been times during my videos and podcasts where I have mentioned situations that I am just simply too ace for. And some of you have caught on, but I want to tell you outright, hi, I'm asexual. Welcome to the Nerdy Magical Girl podcast. And today, not only did I want to talk about asexuality, but I wanted to talk about asexual representation in anime, specifically in characters that I identify with the most. So what is asexuality? In a strict definition, it is defined as the lack of sexual attraction to others or low or absent interest in desire for sexual activity. Which, sure, that's a very rigid definition and rigid way of looking at the ace spectrum. However, if somebody feels that their experience is that of asexuality but doesn't fall within that rigid definition, it can be quite confusing and very isolating. A book and person I will be referencing a lot is I Am Ace by Cody Dago Arians, who deep dives on the introspective work on understanding the relationship between you, the reader, and the ace experience. I actually got to interview Cody during their initial book tour, so I will be leaving a marker for that somewhere here for you to click on if you want to go and see that and see our conversation about asexuality in more detail. But briefly, I love how Cody outlines the differences between attraction, arousal, and libido. The example that's given in the book is arousal is right now, like your body and mind are tied and reacting to an experience that is happening in real time. Libido is more about the intensity and frequency of things, and attraction is directional and specific, so that attraction can go somewhere or it can go nowhere. For me, as an example, it goes nowhere. But this outline just makes it easier to explain things when people ask me questions about asexuality. I really love Cody's outline. Aceness exists on a spectrum from asexuality to demisexual to gray ace and so many micro labels in between. And it's important to keep in mind about asexuality, it is about attraction, not necessarily the act. I'm only calling it the act so this video doesn't get super demonetized. Now, while I can go on and on about the ace spectrum and the definitions, I want to speak mostly about the representation. If you want more insight on the ace experience, I highly recommend the book I Am Ace by Cody Dago Arians, who in this book also references other ace authors as well. Or if you'd like to check out our full interview here on my channel, you can check that out as well. When it comes to representation of ace folks, it often comes in the form of brokenness, or that we are some mystery that needs to be solved or fixed, or sometimes in the form of a robot, which is kind of weird. But recently, I feel that there are two female characters in anime that really hit on the various representation of the ace spectrum, and I really identified with both of them. And that is Frieren from Frieren Beyond Journey's End and Mao Mao from Apothecary Diaries. Frieren is the main protagonist of Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and she is the last living member of the original heroes party who defeated the infamous Demon King, due to her being an elf and having a very long lifespan. We see Frieren's journey during the present era of peace and how she has come to understand the meaning of life and value the people that are closest to her. When it comes to being ace, Frieren actually says it directly in the anime.
In fact, I've only ever met a handful of other elves in all my travels. We may live a long time, but we've scattered to the winds. Of course, it doesn't help that we don't have romantic urges or reproductive instincts. We're experiencing a quiet extinction.
What she's describing is asexuality and aromanticism, but throughout the anime, no one is trying to fix her or fix that part of Frieren. While it is strongly alluded that Himmel the hero had feelings for Frieren, to the extent of giving her a ring that symbolized eternal love, he knew that emotionally her outlook on life, as far as time, really did not align with his, and that she would not be able to return his feelings, and ultimately never told her how he feels. But Himmel did help Frieren gain much emotional intelligence throughout her journey, something that she really didn't have in her upbringing, I feel. And this really helped when it came to interpersonal friendships and interaction with the people that they helped along in their journey. Although she was never able to identify him courting her. Now, are ace arrow folks incapable of understanding somebody else's feelings and desires? No. Is it possible? Yes, but it's possible for anybody to misunderstand and not understand the feelings of others. But specifically with Frieren's aceness and how she described herself, and by extension the elves, falls directly within the definition of asexuality. Again, I just love that even though Himmel loved her, he never tried to change her or fix her. He simply accepted her for who she is and accepted that his feelings were his own problem and did not impose his desires on her. Now, Mao Mao is a great case study for aceness because because I believe that she is very neutral. She's very matter of fact when it comes to activities that happen in the brothel or when teaching about the act itself, and does not react like how others react when it comes to situations that may be intimate adjacent. Physical intimacy and all the things that fall under that umbrella are just logical steps to procreation when it comes to Mao Mao. But like, she fully understands that it can be like something that results in people loving each other. There's so many micro labels when it comes to how people identify, and the A spectrum is no different. For example, asexuals are individual under the A spectrum who did or could experience sexual attraction at one point, but that attraction was stripped away or cut out by some type of past trauma. I believe that this could apply to Mao Mao due to the circumstances of how she came to be born and conflating the traumatic experience with her birth mother and the nature of her previous work. I also strongly believe that Mao Mao's biological dad is demisexual, but I don't want to talk about him because I read the manga and that guy is so annoying. So, moving on. Anyway, I think Mao Mao and how her aceness is exemplified shows that there is no one way to be ace, and also exemplifies that aceness is about attraction and it's not about the act itself. For Mao Mao, her attraction definitely goes towards someone. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you've watched the anime, but again, views to act in a very neutral way, and that's perfectly okay. Mao Mao is brilliant, and while the people around her don't initially understand her ways, they take the time to get to know her and ultimately love her, the things that she's passionate about, and they rely on her deeply. Most importantly, they respect her and don't view her as broken or needing to change or assimilate to how they view intimacy and attraction. In an article I read years ago, if I find it, I will put it in the description below, but in this article I read years ago by someone who is ace, talked about how they navigated doing the act with their allo partner because that was something that made their partner happy. And there's nothing wrong with ace folks. We're not broken, we're not crazy. We just don't feel sexual desire like everyone else. And no, having low or no sexual desire is not the same as not having a libido. That's not the same thing. That is something that is medical. And also, there are ace folks who have very high libido. It happens, but when that attraction goes nowhere, it just kind of sits there and floats in the air. That's just how I imagine it anyway. And I know it is a wild concept, especially because so much of our culture is hypersexualized, even more so for Black women. So it's like, how can you not want to, you know, do everything and all the things? And it's simply because I'm ace. Full stop. Also, just because someone is ace and is in a hetero-facing relationship does not make them less queer. I think gatekeeping queerness by how much trauma a person faces is and always will be a weird take because you never know what somebody is going through. Also, especially if that person is visibly marginalized, like being Black. Also, I have to tell y'all, at an event I was at, a professional gaming event, and you know, the topic of asexuality came up, and I was talking about like my experience. Someone in the industry literally told me, "Oh, I didn't know Black women could be asexual." And I'm like, why? That's not limited to race. What a weird thing to say. And that is because, you know, back to the point that Black women are very hypersexualized in many facets of society. It was a very weird experience. I loved seeing Frieren and Mao Mao as positive representations of asexuality in media, especially for women. I hope to see more of that in the future in different mediums of media. If you are ace, I want to say that you are valid. Your experiences are valid. You are not broken, and you are so valid. Overall, these two anime, Frieren Beyond Journey's End and The Apothecary Diaries, are amazing anime and deserve all the recognition in the world. Also, if you have the ability to read the manga, especially for Apothecary Diaries, I fully recommend it. Also, shout out to my fellow aces out there. You're awesome. We're awesome. We're just awesome, okay? If you enjoyed this content, please make sure you give it a thumbs up here on YouTube and remember to subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, please give me a 5-star rating. I appreciate it. Also, I have a Patreon and a Coffee that has like bonus content and early releases of stuff. And also, if you become a YouTube member, I release the same things on here. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope, as always, you have a magical day. Happy Pride, everyone. Bye.